Hey everybody, how's it going? We're going to do a hopefully quick video today just about getting started with Dorico. I see a lot of people that are trying it, getting frustrated with just the very basic things. So I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough here of a couple basic things getting started. So whenever you open up the program, this is the window that's going to pop up. The first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to tell Dorico what instrument or what players you're writing for. So we're going to click on solo player, type in piano, and boom, pops up a piano. All right. I'm going to add one other one just to show you. If I type in trumpet, we have all the different transpositions and all that stuff. So we'll go ahead and add that there. Switching things around is pretty simple. If you just go over to the left here, you can click and drag and reorder things. And you can also tell it what kind of parts you want to create. If you want to do scores, different parts, if you can do different combinations of parts, if you want to show two parts maybe on the same piece of paper, you can do that over here on the right. One thing to point out here as you're getting started, over here on the top left, we have a bunch of different tabs, right? So we have set up, write, engrave, play, and print. And this is actually a feature that I really like in Dorico. Switching from Finale after 13 years of using Finale, one thing that I constantly was always fighting with is I would go to edit something or input something and it would incidentally move something that I didn't want to edit. And I know that was a big issue with Sibelius as well. So Dorico has kind of changed that and gotten rid of that hassle here by having different tabs. Now the different tabs do different things, right? So we have setup, which is simply just telling Dorico what instruments you want to write for, if you have different movements, and we'll talk about flows later on in this video or maybe in a different video. And then the different parts that you're writing, and that all takes place here. So if I want to actually be inputting music, I need to go to the Write tab, and I've seen a couple people on different forum pages that haven't gotten past that, right? So if I'm inputting music, I need to go to the Write tab to input anything. So this is what pops up, and I feel like this is the big hurdle that a lot of people kind of run into whenever they first get started, right? So if I'm thinking about Finale and in Sibelius, a lot of that is done with the mouse, point, click, entry. So let's just see how that works in Dorico. Say I want to put in a bunch of quarter notes, right? So let's maybe put in the G major scale, right? So I click here, okay, great. I have a G. Now I want to click an A, but what the heck? I typed in a quarter note G, and now it changed it to an eighth note. And if I type in the next one, it keeps changing what I've input, and I don't want it to do that. Well, I'm going to go ahead and undo that. The first mistake, and I think the biggest mistake a lot of people are making whenever they're trying Dorico out, is stop trying to input everything with the mouse. That's not gonna be helpful at all. That was the way to do it with Finale and Sibelius, but it is not the way to do it with Dorico. Dorico is designed from the ground up, designed for you to use the keyboard as your main form of entry for everything, right? And whether that's a MIDI keyboard or a QWERTY keyboard, that's how you should be inputting things, all right? So just to get started here, you'll notice it only has one beat, right, of blank music for you to input things in. Whenever you start a new project, there are a couple pieces of information you're going to need to tell Dorico before you get going. You can input things like this, but it's going to make your life difficult. So the first thing I always do whenever I start a new project is I tell it what the time signature needs to be. Now, if I'm thinking in the workflow of Finale and Sibelius, I'd go over to my time signatures. I'd say, okay, I want this to be in 4/4 time. I'd come over here and I'd click it and we're good to go, right? I don't need to do that in Dorico though, because they have created a feature that is fantastic once you get used to it, and that is popovers, right? So essentially, what a popover is, rather than going through this list of menus and submenus and all that stuff, which was a big hassle in Sibelius, with popovers, I just type in what do I want to type? Okay, I want to type in a meter or a time signature, right? Meter starts with the letter M. So I type Shift M, and this little pop-up window comes up, and I say, okay, I want this to be 4 times. Type it in like a fraction and hit enter, and boom, it shows up right there. All right. Now this has been a nice feature because, as I said, it saves you from having to go over and find all of these different things in all these different menus and submenus. And we can talk a little bit more about popovers here, but I want to go back to note entry. Once I have my music kind of written in, if I want to give myself more room to write here, right, I can add bars. So I want to go Shift B, say I want to add 8 bars, make this thing 9 measures long, all right? So it pops up there. Now going back to note entry, as I said before, don't use your mouse for note entry, right? You can, if I want to do that, I can point and click, but it's going to be much, much easier and much quicker if I go through and I say, okay, I want to start writing here in the trumpet part, and I hit enter, and you'll see this little input caret pop up, that little orange line pops up, right? That's what you want to see. That's letting you know, yes, I'm writing music, I'm inputting things, all right? The order that you need to input is rhythm first and then notes. And there is a way over here that you can swap that. You can do note input first and then type in the rhythm like it was in Finale. I think this way is a lot easier though, and there's a bunch of reasons. We won't go into all those details though. So let's go back to what we were trying to do before, right? Let's try to put in the G major scale with just quarter notes, all right? So I select quarter notes here, and I can select it with the mouse, but as I said before, stop trying to use the mouse to do everything. There are keyboard shortcuts for everything in Dorico, and I highly recommend you use them. So with quarter notes, if I hover over here, you can see a little 6 there in blue in that menu. That's talking about the numbers on the keyboard, right? So if I want to select quarter notes, I hit 6. If I want to select eighth notes, I select 5. 16ths is 4, and you'll notice as the numbers go down, the duration of the note gets shorter. As the numbers go up, the duration of the note gets longer. So if I want quarter notes, I hit 6, and there it is. All right, now I can either use a keyboard, a MIDI keyboard, and type in my scale. I can do it that way. Or if I am working kind of on the road and I don't have my MIDI keyboard and all that set up, I can type it in just with the letters on the QWERTY keyboard. So if I want to type in G, we start with G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and I'll show you how to make it F sharp, and then G. Right, so there's the basis of our scale. To do accidentals, you hold Shift Alt, and you can move notes by half step up or down. That way is pretty handy. Now, there is one thing to kind of point out using just the QWERTY keyboard as you're going through doing note input. Say I want to repeat this and I want the next note to be that second line G. If I hit G again, it's going to put it on top of the staff, because how Dorico works with that kind of input is it puts it to the letter name closest to the last one that you input. All right, but if I wanted it to start an octave down, I can do octave displacement by hitting Control Alt and dropping it down the octave, and then we can go through and redo that. Okay, so that's super helpful, and like I said, I like the rhythm first input just because I think it's easier once you start going with your workflow. I think that's much easier than doing note and then rhythm as it was in Finale. Now, just very, very quickly, a couple other things to point out here. Key signatures, right? And let's talk about popovers, right? So the popovers are very, very simple with how they're organized, and they're very intuitive, right? So we talked about meter, okay? If I wanted to input a different meter, I hit Shift M because meter starts with M, right? Type it in, and there it is. If I want to do a key signature, key is K, so Shift K, and I can either type in G, capital G for G major, and it populates it that way, or I can say I want 1 sharp, and it populates it that way. So there's a couple different options that you can do it, and it does follow the capital letters for major, lowercase letters for minor convention. There's something to just be aware of. If I want to input a dynamic, dynamic starts with D, so Shift D, I can type in whatever dynamic I want there. If I want a tempo, tempo starts with T, So I can type in, I don't know, Andante or something, and it inputs it that way. The only kind of oddball ones that we have here are text and chords, right? So text, text is shift X, right? Text, text. And I can just type in whatever I want there, and it keeps it, and that's great. The only other weird one is chords, and that's because chord starts with a C, right? But shift C is actually the clef. So if I wanted to put this in bass clef, I can do that. That's C. Chords is going to be shift Q. So if I wanted to make that a G major chord, I can do that. But popovers are so much faster than using my mouse to come over here and find, okay, I want a dynamic and I want that to be forte, and then come over here and click and do all that stuff. It's just extra clicking, right? And especially if you're somebody that is working on a lot of different projects simultaneously where time is a big factor, eliminating mouse clicks is huge. And even if it only eliminates 1 or 2 mouse clicks per process, per thing that you're trying to do, when you're working on a project where there's thousands, heck, even millions of mouse clicks, those 1 or 2 eliminations can make a huge difference, right? And just kind of an anecdote, whenever I switched to Dorico, I just had a trial version and just wanted to see what the hype was about. And I had been using Finale for about 13 years, and I was very quick with that. And even starting in Dorico, having to watch tutorial videos and Google things, I got a 78-page musical book out in about 72 hours. And again, that was having to sit and Google and figure things out. But once you get going, Dorico is super intuitive and everything is right where you would expect it to be. And that's one of the things that I love about this program. Just kind of in closing here, recapping, make sure, number one, the biggest hurdle that I see people facing all the time is stop trying to use the mouse to input everything. That's not how Dorico is designed. It's designed for keyboard input with navigation and all that. It's all designed to be around the keyboard. It makes things much easier. It's much faster. And if you spend 10, 15 minutes learning all of these different keyboard commands, which are very intuitive, it's going to make your life a lot easier. And I just, recommend stop trying to use the same workflow that you do with Sibelius and with Finale, because it's designed differently. And I think this program, once you figure out those basic steps, it's so much faster. And maybe we'll go through in a different video and show some of these other more advanced features that Dorico has. But I thought I'd just kind of make this for people starting out. Hopefully that's helpful. One kind of PSA that I did want to show here. One thing that a lot of people are struggling with, just kind of thinking off the top of my head here, if I want to delete things, right, I can just highlight and hit delete or backspace or whatever I'd like, and it will get rid of it. One caution though, make sure when you're in input mode, you do not have insert mode on, right? That's if you tap I, it toggles insert mode on and off. If I delete something with insert mode off, it's going to shift all of the music to where the starting point is for where I deleted things. So just be aware of that. That's over here. That's that little button there. If I can think of anything else very quickly, I'll go ahead and show that. But that's kind of just a basic getting started, inputting notes tutorial. Hopefully you found that helpful. If you did, give us a like here. If you'd like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit subscribe and hit the little notification bell there. And if you have any suggestions or you'd like to see any other features with Dorico, just with a very quick and dirty tutorial here, go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know. Hopefully you find that helpful, and I will see you guys later.